This is what the book's about. He goes into like how basically like we go from propaganda to like media companies selling us toys as kids. Like in the 80s, like it becomes a huge thing with He-Man, where the show is actually made to sell toys, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And a big thing that happened was like Marvel made like Transformers comics, but it was only to sell toys, literally only to sell toys. So they weren't allowed to make toy commercials. They like passed this like really strict law. They weren't allowed to market toys to kids that way. So they just made a show that was just a giant commercial, which is like He-Man, Transformers. But it goes deeper than that. And like they get us when we're kids. So now we love these characters. And when we grow up, there's like an emotional attachment. Like we're all like that. Like that's, you know, like for better or worse, so that's what the book talks about, how like nostalgia is like this really strong thing that ties us to the past, but it can be harmful.
How many issues is it? Or how long is it?
It's 240 pages.
Okay. I'm just asking because that sounds super interesting and I'm probably going to check it out after.
No, yeah, it's really good. It's not like a comic, right? You could read that in an afternoon, Cody, you for sure. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, it's black and white. It's, you know, I don't want to call it minimalist, but he's not Alex Ross, you know, like, yeah. Actually, hold on. I have one of his books right here. Like, this is what the art looks like. Like, it's this style.
Nice.
Cool.
Is that the Andre one?
This is the cannabis one.
Nice.
So even at the end of the book, he's like, look, I'm just the same way as everybody else. Like when I bought into Baby Yoda and all that shit, you know, like he's into so like I think we could ask him like what toys he collected as a kid. We could talk about that. Yeah. You know, like we could have a real conversation with him. That's super easy. That's just what the book's about. I mean, we all collected toys. We all have some weird fixation with Star Wars.
I still do collect.
Exactly. So we got this. That's all.
So Jake, you're a slave to these media corporations.
Yeah.
Slave for you. Britney Spears, shout out.
Shout out. First ever Britney Spears shout out on Comics and Chronic.
Yeah, we need to do that more. Shout out Britney Spears.
Yeah. I support Britney Spears, man.
Imagine we get her on the podcast. That would be insane.
Britney Spears. We could.
Let's do it. Let's DM her.
Spears. Yeah, she'll come on.
She'll come on to our comics and weed podcast. She would love.
She's a character, man. I follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean,
she's Loopy Tuesdays.
Loopy Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. Just a couple weeks until we're Loopy Tuesdays.
Dude, the world is not ready.
Yeah.
Nor will it ever be.
That's true.
Jake, you look like a member of the Fantastic Four. Like, that's what your shirt is. It's like I'm talking to Reed Richards right now.
I look like a member of the Fantastic Four.
Because it's like just blue and I see a little white, so it's almost like the fours coming up.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I see that. I don't want to be a member of the Fantastic Four.
Well, that's what you're stuck as now.
You're Johnny Storm, for sure.
All right, I'll be Johnny Storm.
And Cody's the thing. That has to be.
Definitely. And you're the Invisible Woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you could be member. You could be Miss. Yeah, she is actually. You could be Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, I would. I'd be Mr. Fantastic. I don't like him necessarily, but I don't hate him.
Yeah, no. I think Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman are just suck.
If I'm honest, I don't give a shit about any of them.
I know, we know. We've talked
about we know your hate runs deep.
I also don't care for them. I just don't like them. I was like, show me something cooler.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I actively hate them as much as I just don't care.
You just don't respect the OGs.
Dude, more like Fantastic Snore.
Yeah, Fantastic Bore.
Yeah. Puts me to sleep.
Yeah.
Put some respect on Fantastic Four. It's like I can't stand by.
Show me something to respect.
Yeah, actually, how about next time instead of a Spider-Man comic, you suggest some Fantastic Four comic.
I know exactly which one to pick, and I don't know
you
guys won't
hate it in the chamber. We won't hate you?
It's Hickman. It's Jonathan Hickman. He's our boy.
All right, let's see. I'll see it. I don't know.
Jake, have you been reading Manhattan Projects?
Dude, you know it.
No, you have not.
I read the first issue.
Dude, it's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy.
Yeah. The first issue has such a great twist.
Yeah, I like the first issue. I'll read it.
Oh, guys, he's here, by the way, so I'm going to let him in a second.
What's his name again? Brian?
Okay, so yeah, his name is Brian Box Brown, or Brian Brown, and the book is called The He-Man Effect.
Okay.
Nice.
Let's do this, bro.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
We go.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Welcome.
How's it going, Brian?
What's going on, guys?
Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah,
How you doing today?
Thank you for having me.
I worked today. I'm ready to cut loose.
Do you partake in smoking?
Oh yeah, definitely. I got like this like weird device that I want to try. I think it's like electric. Like you can put this in here.
Whoa.
And then it like vapes your shit
through the bong.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I haven't tried it yet.
Science. Yeah, that would be honestly an honor to have on if you want to set it on
Comics and Chronic exclusive.
I don't know how it works though. At all, or if it's charged.
Yeah.
But I've been wanting to try that out. So I did like some work for Grav Labs. Do you know that?
Yeah.
I did some work for Grav Labs, and now they send me stuff all the time, like new products and stuff.
Right.
And they sent me that the other day, and I was like, oh, nice. And they actually sent me this little bubbler here too.
That's nice. I really like that. Yeah, Grav Labs makes really good pieces. I like their stuff.
The dude that designs all their shit is like really good. But yeah, I think they're really cool because they like just make pieces that are like functional and affordable for like everybody.
Yeah.
By the way, this episode is not brought to you by Grav Labs, but if they want us,
unless they want it to be, then give us a holler. Slide in our DMs.
Free promo right
there. So I'm assuming based on like you're West Coast based, right?
No, I'm in Philadelphia.
Oh, nice. Okay,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Wait, so is weed legal in Pennsylvania?
So, no. We
I mean, not that we care about following the law, but
we decriminalized in Philly. Mm-hmm. Although they still arrest people. Like you can get like it's like a $25 ticket for
but they can still arrest you.
Possession. Somehow people still get arrested though. Mm-hmm. Like, if you can imagine, like no white people ever get arrested for it.
Right.
But like they obviously still fuck with people.
Yeah.
Also like our DA in Philly, Krasner, is like super, he like won't prosecute any like weed crimes or anything like that. He's like super progressive and like all the cops hate him so much. But so we have that going on, and we have like medical here in PA. The market is really bad. It's like all MSOs. I think there's like 2 functioning companies that are like maybe 3 that are PA, like they just like we're PA small businesses kind of. The rest of the market is all the big players. It's like True Leave, Cresco.
Yeah.
All those guys.
Yeah, I'm your neighbor to the southwest, West Virginia.
Okay.
So I'm like an hour south of Pittsburgh, essentially. And
so they have medical in
we
West
just
Virginia.
got medical, okay. And as soon as we did, it's been like True Leave.
Oh yeah.
Opening up. And that's like really all, West Virginia's always been like, hey, we're going to let the corporations fuck us. So that's no surprise,
Yeah. Well, do you guys have home grow there?
I don't think, I don't No, for sure. If I'm being honest, I'm like just like clinging to having to go to my dude's house. You know what I mean? Like that's just a tradition I don't want to leave behind. I'm not ready to leave behind yet.
Honestly, like I was talking to this dude about this the other day. Like what they did was they didn't like legalize the market and like the culture that we're all used to. Like that stuff is still illegal. They like legalized this other thing in terms of sales. It's like a whole nother group of people that have different like desires and needs and wants and everything. And then there's this whole other cultural traditional market that exists right next to it and has like most of the customer base.
Yeah, for sure.
And my guy will always have better prices too.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like better prices, better selection because like, there's no, it's the traditional market. So stuff's going over state lines. It's not like they're pretending that it's not. So you're getting the best stuff from my one dude in Philly. Like he just has the best rosin like from all over the country. Like nice. all those dudes that you see like on Instagram that are like, pressing gas and whatever, that you can get it.
Yeah.
And then in the legal market, it's like, you go and you get, they have like it's like a facsimile of what you're getting on the other market. It's like kind of like weed. I mean, it is, but it's like, just not up to snuff quality wise.
For sure.
And expensive and just like, plus you're also supporting like people who are lobbying against consumer and patient best wishes like all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of rosin, so I'm like really high and I've been high for the past like hour and a half. My buddy and I, he has a dab rig in his car and he does rosin and all that shit. And it just floored me.
He has a dab rig.
Had a mini panic attack. For sure, thought for like a solid 15 minutes I was gonna have a heart attack. And it finally subsided, and I've just been like,
does he have like a proxy or something?
He has like a full on like rig. He has a torch and everything in his car.
Right in his car.
I see him on his lunch breaks. He just fucking hits that shit.
Some of my friends, I don't know if it is, but like switching from flour to that stuff. Like I have a friend who also has a full rig in his car, torch and everything.
Yeah.
And then I'll like offer flour, and he's like, "Oh, I can't smoke that and drive." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
It is true though. If I'm being honest, like I stopped like using flour for a long time. I was just using rosin and mostly rosin. I was on other concentrates for a while before that, but now it's like all rosin. And now, you know what though, I appreciate smoking flour all the time now because it's literally not as strong as rosin, but like a different feeling. Like it hits different.
Exactly.
There's different like one thing I noticed right away when you smoke flour, you get like relaxation in your eyes. Like you feel like ocular, like relaxed. That's when you're like, your eyes are like shut or whatever.
Yeah.
When you do dabs, like that doesn't really happen. You don't feel the relaxation in your eyes.
I don't feel relaxation, period, when I do dabs. I feel like instant horror. Like existential, like just crises.
Yeah, like I mean, same. There was one time we were driving back from a wedding, and I hit Jake's dab pen too many times, and I had to pull off on the side of the highway and be like, "Dude, you got to take over." I was freaking out.
It's true. Sometimes shit just like hits you a certain way, and you're like, "Whoa." Like I didn't even think that was working. I always forget that it takes like a minute or two or like 3 or 4 minutes to like really
kick in
when you're really like in it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get like really good rosin and I'm like really excited to try it. I do a dab and I exhale and I'm like, man, what the fuck? Like this shit's like not even that good. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, it's cool. I've been working with this farmer in Maine, and he's trying out all these different things with his rosin and growing all these different strains. And I would imagine like in a perfect world, this would kind of be like a lot of where people would be getting their cannabis from, where it would be like, not necessarily everybody's going to be growing their own weed. Everybody's like, it's easy. And I think that everybody should be able to, but I don't think it's easy. I think it's really hard. Like I have like no green thumb or anything. I've killed like every plant I've touched. Like it's not easy in my opinion to like, or at least there's a learning curve, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to go through a few cycles before you're really, and then even then, it's a lifetime to like master and really start growing like really nice cannabis. And I think that like in a real like perfect world, it would be more like you have one farmer that is providing like a grow collective where you're like supporting the farmer, and he doesn't even need that many customers really. Like a small amount of regular customers that have some say in what's being grown and how it's being done, processes and all that stuff. That type of thing seems completely natural. And like, that's how legal cannabis kind of started, like in California with these grow collectives. And that is like not possible like in any state. Like it is in a few, but like very, very rarely is like the most natural way to, do this legal. It's all like this complicated, overcomplicated system. Like,
well, I'm in like New York City, and it seems like they completely fucked it up. Like,
yeah, no, they did. No, they did. Everyone did, though. I really don't think, there's maybe, you can say like Portland, Oregon, maybe. And there's some states Colorado, yeah. But like people are always like, we don't want to make the same mistakes Colorado made. I'm like, they had like the best launch ever. Like, and like they were like the first law and everybody screwed it up worse after that. But really like, no one really has captured like the whole traditional market into the legal market, like because it has to remain simple, like what has to ideally, it wouldn't be like we're creating this whole new set of laws. We're getting rid of a law. We're getting rid of the law that says cannabis is illegal, and let's start there. Just get rid of that and see what happens. Then if this market that's working fine doesn't work out, then we'll figure some other way. But there's definitely other ways to allow the people that are currently doing this work to do it legally and just like pay their taxes without like creating a fucking goddamn labyrinth of regulations and hoops to jump through. It's cynical, but it really, you have to start thinking about, have these states set up cannabis to fail on purpose?
That's what I was just thinking. You saying all that is making me think, they're legalizing it, but to what extent?
To like, and part of it's just like, oh, look, why bother? I mean, look at this. It's not even worthwhile. But it's because none of them end up with the outcomes that they say in the beginning. They're always like, oh, we're gonna end the black market, and then they never ever do, because you can't just end the black market. You can't. What we learned with the war on drugs is you can't end it with force. Like it just can't be done. You have to transfer all those people over into legal. You have to reach. It should be like a big olive branch. And it's like, it's not, it's a way to suck money out. There's people that say that the, Prop 64 in California was set up to destroy the California cannabis industry. And it kind of did. Like, so many businesses have gone out of business and have been unable to convert their Prop 215 license to their Prop 64 license. They've shed tons of businesses that are just gone.
What was in the proposition exactly?
They just changed it so Prop 215 was great because it had very broad language and allowed for a lot of things, but it was a medical only law. So the whole industry in California, legal industry, was medical, and Prop 64 changed everything to regular adult use and forced everybody to to get this license instead of the Prop 215 license, that would be like ended or whatever. So you had to get this other license, which was like impossible. Businesses that have been in business for like 10, 15 years couldn't get it together to go through the hoops to like get the new license to allow them to do the same thing that they were already doing. And went out of business. I mean, it's sad. It happened a lot, in big in Mendocino County, which is like, there was like 10,000 grows there at some point. And now there's, under 1,000 and, very few legal, like we have been able to convert to legal. So like, I don't know. I mean, like these guys, it's not like they go away. It's like they can't be legal, get this legal license. It's not like they just like die.
Yeah.
They just sell illegally. I mean, like it's just the same. We're doing the same dance over and again.
Yeah.
I don't until somebody takes it seriously, and we see some people doing it, taking it seriously, but it's this whole government thing is like difficult, man, because there's like so many, like there's, all right. So you have like the firmly anti-cannabis people that are like, the hardcore conservative types, right?
Yeah.
And then you have also the people that want to legalize it, but have completely shitty intentions for wanting to legalize. Like they just want to strip the industry out of as much money as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this tiny little sliver over here is like people with good intentions that want to like actually do it right and like recognize like the potential. And so all these interests have their own like lobbying people, like the whole MSO, like all of those people have their own state, what's that called? Like a lobbying arm, like they do it together. It's called a coalition or whatever of these
like
MSOs. Kind of. Yeah. They have like this little union that they all, this company lobbies for everybody in this group, which is like the PA Cannabis Council or something like that, which is like every MSO. And so they have that like in every state. And so like that, it's a trade group, whatever. Those groups are in the state houses lobbying, and they're getting people on board that are just like, there's a guy in PA, Dan Laughlin, and he like is this conservative guy from Erie, Pennsylvania, that is like, wants to be like this edgy Republican dude. So he's like, I'm going to sponsor the weed bill, right? And it's going to be like this bipartisan bill or whatever with this guy from Philly. And he's just like, doesn't know shit about weed at all. Like he doesn't know anything about why things are good or bad or like whatever. He'll release language to the activists expecting us to be like, oh, this is great. Like, thank you so much. And we're like, dude, this is terrible. Like, what were you thinking? Like, this is just like, why would you do this? And so it's like, that's the advocate, that's the guy that's going to bat for cannabis. Meanwhile, he's like almost like a laughing stock to his own party. And the other guy that he's working with, has been like this cannabis guy, forever, but has he gotten anything done really? No, he always is in the center of all the cannabis talk. And so like, he always gets tons of media. And so like, I don't know if this dude, what his intentions are either. And so like, these are the people that are out there fighting for us. Like there's very few, very, very few.
They really care.
Yeah. I've talked to a few politicians or like, legislators where I'm like, this person seems like a normal, like one of my friends or something. And it'll be like somebody from Maine, a very small district in Maine, where like, this is their part-time job. It's like unpaid job or something. You know what I mean? Like that's what their representatives, and they have like normal level-headed thoughts about things. Like not everybody is like this crazy, just trying to get votes on a broader scale or broad. In Philadelphia, it's like everybody wants to get national attention over dumb shit. These guys aren't looking for that because it's like not, like the national media never really goes to Maine to like figure out what they're doing or talk to them at all. And so the legislators are just like regular people. And then you end up with laws in states like that make a little bit more sense. Like the Maine medical system is amazing. Like it's totally like, first of all, it's accessible to anyone with a medical card in any state, pretty much. They say PA is like the only holdout where like technically they're not supposed to sell it to you if you have a PA medical card, but like I would say like 50% of them still do because it's more on your shoulders than it is on theirs. But they have great, the accessibility there is amazing. And so like if you have a little farm on your property, you can like grow your cannabis in a medical sense for patients. And then the law is broadened enough that you can take your medicine that you made for patients and sell it to a dispensary who can actually like sell it to whomever, like tourists and stuff. And like, and you can actually get out and operate in the market as like a small business. But again, that's like this established medical market that's been there since the 90s. And their adult use system, even in Maine, is shitty. Like very few of these medical companies, again, like California, have been able to convert to adult use because of the level of regulations that are different in those two laws. And so that's how they like keep the small business out. And that's how they keep traditional market out. And that's how they keep the culture out. And that's why legal weed sucks balls. Not everywhere, I guess. It's hard to say that with a broad stroke, but you know, in many states, many companies, it's very bad.
That makes sense. You are crazy informed about all of this.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? This is what happened is that I became a medical patient here. First of all, I have been smoking weed since whatever. I was a teenager, and it was when states started legalizing, I was often on a book tour, and I'd be in Seattle. I remember that was the first time I went to a dispensary, and I was like, "This is fucking amazing!" It was crazy. I was just I'd never seen anything like it at the time. So much to choose from. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what to get. I was buying everything. And I couldn't stop going back to the store. I went every day. I had weed. I would just be but they have other stuff. This is a different store, And I was so thrilled waiting for that. When I heard that they were going to have dispensaries in PA and in Philly, I was they're going to open one in our neighborhood. It's going to be right there. And I was this is fucking awesome. It's going to be just like that one in Seattle or just like that one in Colorado. And then they opened up and I was first of all, the prices are double or triple what I'm paying my dude.
Yeah.
For a long time, it was that where they were crazy high prices. And then it came down to where it was 10, 15, 20 bucks more on each thing where I was all right, it's close enough. They have a big selection, I'll give it a shot. And then, so a few things happen. You go in, first you're I'll try everything. It's when I used to deliver, I would deliver food for restaurants and eventually you just eat everything on the menu. You know what I'm saying? So it's that, you go try everything. Right. And you start to realize $15 per product adds up really quickly over the weeks and months. And also quality wise, it's just not hitting at all. And the products, and I was looking at this market and I was why is this so fucking shitty? And I was just getting so frustrated. I'm this is bad. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Why? Blah, blah, blah. And then I just became obsessed with it and was just constantly talking about it and arguing about it, yelling about it. But no one cared when I was just typing on Twitter and being this is bullshit for this reason.
But I feel I learn a lot about weed current events and so Legalization Nation. I love seeing that. And I feel like I learned so much from you that I just don't hear anywhere else, you know?
Yeah, so that's like why I did it. I was like, no one's talking. I'm like, the weed media is not talking about
The weed media.
Yeah, there's like a huge the
Are you like a weed journalist?
big media. So there are weed journalists for sure. Like that's her whole career. I have a friend who, she was doing that for the longest time. Freelance weed journalist. But the thing is that in the weed media, it's all funded by the companies that sell the weed. And so they don't want news about why they suck like on their website. And so there's not a lot of like investigative news. There's a lot of promotion news. There's a lot of celebrity news. Like that always gets national news when some celebrity does some shit, like Ric Flair and Mike Tyson.
Flair, yeah.
Those guys get tons of press, like nonstop press about their like little stupid weed brand. But like there's no like 60 minutes of weed or like, I don't know, like NPR or like investigative frontline documentaries about this stuff. And there's a whole like so much like shenanigans going on. And so like that's why I like made Legalization Nation, was to like at least talk about this stuff. And like, I don't know, I've made a lot of friends and enemies in the industry, like for sure. Like some people get mad very quickly
because you're just like exposing them. They just don't like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that are into the weed industry for money and stock people and, people that are in it for the wrong reasons, kind of.
That makes sense.
You kind of talking about the way you did about strains. So let me try to do the weirdest segue, maybe like because the way you're saying like a celebrity attached to a strain or like a edible or something might make me go out and buy it. I'm thinking about your book. I'm thinking about the He-Man effect and how like, first of all, okay, reading that, I'm reading it and I'm like, I feel really bad. Like I fell for this hook, line, and sinker. Like this was me. This is still me. And so at the end, when you say no, I feel the same things that I'm talking about. It made me feel so much better. But like I feel that way about strains now that we're talking about it. Like, ooh, I'm gonna go for that one because okay, Rick and Morty, bad example. I'm not going to go for that. But if like Goku was like powering up on a baggie, some guy had him, they'd be like, I'm smoking that.
Well, let me tell you, there's a rosin dude named Professor Sif that has like all like bootleg Dragon Ball Z stuff, and it's shit is supposed to be really good. I never got it, but it looks awesome. But for sure, like when I was saying, like when I first went to those dispensaries and I would like go back every day. A lot of that I think was like being intoxicated by the packaging and all that stuff. Like, the first time you see that for weed, when you're used to getting just like a baggie or maybe a jar or something.
One of my guys was giving it to me in like the baggie you used to pick up dog shit. He's like, this is all I had left.
Yeah, like I think about how many times I bought weed like at a bar that was like inside the cellophane on the bottom of someone's cigarettes. It was just like tied up at the bottom.
Oh, for sure.
And then one day there's like fucking weed pack, like
colorful packaging.
Yeah.
It works, man. I really do. I mean, I think that was kind of like when I was started working on the He-Man effect, and I was like going to the dispensary. I'm like, dude, I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing. It's funny because like I'm also at the same time often arguing that weed companies should have more leeway in packaging because they always I always think the packaging laws are ridiculous, where it's like you can't promote the product really at all. Like in Canada, you can only put your logo on the package, and it has to be like a very extremely simple logo, and that's it. No other packaging at all.
Huh.
Damn.
And they did that so it wouldn't appeal to teens. Like it's hard to say that they are wrong,
right?
But also as an illustrator, I look at like if you look at like craft beer, like the labels on cans and stuff, and even wine, that's what sells the product. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, it's huge. I mean, especially wine. I mean, like that's all, huge thing. And it's great for illustrators, and you can see it happening in the traditional market, and in some states where it's they have more leeway. But they have crazy weed packaging, like crazy shit, like all kinds of stuff. And I think that it's appealing. I see why they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, like I also like want to make it. I want to do that because it's fun and cool. I mean, like
That'd be so cool.
yeah, but you're right. Like you do, we fall for the and it's all advertising and marketing, man. Like, this was something that happened on like a scale, like a national scale. It was and the 80s kids were like the first generation where it was just like unfettered advertising access to the childhood brain. And I think that like no one really I don't think anybody saw negative consequences to it like at all until much later on, until we saw until people were like adults or whatever, because it seemed like it was just like a natural thing. I mean, like those action figure companies, Mattel, those toy companies made tons of money. And, that's the American way. And, they were profitable. The kids loved them. Like I loved He-Man. But it turns out like I loved He-Man like too much. Like I just like, it's this intense, like, this, I got the idea, I think from making the book, because I was like buying old He-Man toys and
nice.
And like looking back, I bought like this Sears catalog from like 1986, and I was just like poring over. Those are expensive too. Those are like hard to come by. They were like a dime a dozen in 1986. Like everybody had one for free. They sent them to you. And but it was like this thick catalog like this of like every product they sold at Sears. But like 20 pages of it were like toys.
Oh yeah, I remember. I'm the same way.
Yeah, man. I poured over these things, man. And so like I got the Sears catalog and I was like, oh yeah, man, like this is so great. Like it was like so, and like the feeling of nostalgia was like literally like I could like feel like my face vibrating almost, or like it's this feeling like of like wanting to be there, or like I could like smell the memory somehow, or like it's this like really, really, really like intense feeling. And then like I went to a toy convention, and it was like packed with people buzzing, like people buying and selling, like, and I'm just looking around and I'm like, damn, like that advertising in like 1982 is still paying dividends for like hundreds of businesses like across the country. And I just was like, and I'm like, yeah, like there's Transformers movies, like it's just like never ending. And then I just opened up the whole floodgates and then just went back through the whole thing. And definitely also watching the if you read the book, you might want to watch this. It's kind of like a long documentary, but it's called The Century of Self.
I have seen that.
You've seen that?
So when you talked about Edward Bernays, I was like, oh, I know Edward Bernays, that piece of shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was part of it too, like watching that. And that's really great. It's like a 4-part documentary about advertising basically and the 20th century, and like, the impression that all of this commerce like made on the population, right? And like where they got the idea for it. And it's Adam Curtis, so
yeah, he's great.
Yeah, and he's awesome, and but he also like makes you feel like it's like the end of the world. Like,
yeah, I do love watching it for that reason. Like, fuck, everything's fucked.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, it's like intense, but it's true though. I mean, like, we're being bought, sold all the time. Like, it's just endless. They know how to do it now. I mean, I think that it was something that they stumbled upon, kind of, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it was always there. But like, I think the goal is really to have everyone's most cherished memories that stick with you for your entire life have like the Disney brand on them, or the Mattel brand. I mean, look at the Barbie movie. I mean, like it pays dividends. It's paying dividends.
Yeah.
I almost want to buy like all the Bluey toys or something now and like just save them for 20 years. I mean, it'd be easy money. I mean, sell it back to the they're adults. I mean, like it's gonna happen to that. But it's gonna happen to my kids. I think they watch that show and play with the toys and stuff.
And that's not a bad show at all. Bluey's like, I feel like everyone
Bluey's
loves
great.
Bluey. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Bluey is totally good messaging and funny and not, I don't think that their goal really is to sell Bluey toys, but there are Bluey toys.
What is Bluey?
Bluey is a kids' TV show that is probably aimed at the same demographic as He-Man was when I was a kid, but it's about a dog family that lives in Australia. And they're all dogs, and it's just like adorably wholesome and funny, and also like the show that has the most like pooping and farting and peeing in it ever.
They normalize it, I guess.
Yeah, they really do. Australian people, I think, are just like into like a little bit more toilet humor than America can handle. Like if this was an American show, that the editors of the show would be like, no. Yeah, that's enough with the peeing and the farting and the shitting. Like, but they do go for it. It's very good, very funny show. Anyway, that in 20 years, when my son's in his early 20s or whatever, mid 20s, late 20s, whatever it is, at some point he's going to go back and he's going to watch Bluey, and it's going to like spark this crazy feeling. And then he's going to be like, oh, man, I got to get the old Bluey toys. And he's going to go on eBay and be like, oh, yeah, yes. But the important thing to remember about all this, right, is that like that feeling is like as human as anything. Like that is something that we are like born with. And it's for some reason evolutionarily important and it's powerful. But it's also like not true. Like, you wouldn't go back and say He-Man is without a doubt the best action figure ever. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, but this happens a lot in other regards, right? Like, so in pro wrestling, people often are like, dude, everybody's, these people all suck now. Like the best dude was Jake the Snake Roberts and like everybody else, and they'll really sincerely make this argument. But it's really just because like you were 10 when you saw Jake the Snake Roberts, and that's why it's so burns so brightly in your memory. Yeah, or like it happens. I was talking to a dude about real sports, how it happens like with baseball and stuff, and people will be like, "No, the best team ever was like the 1996 Yankees or whatever, or like the 1965 Yankees or something like that." And even though by like every measure, athletes are far superior today than they have ever been, and they constantly keep getting better. Like world records always break. If you put Babe Ruth up against guys now, 100 years later, he wouldn't be able to play the game at all. So the dangerous side of this, right, is in things like in politics and such a big not just politics, but like in society, it can be like such a big motivator. Make America great again is an appeal to nostalgia. It's saying that, remember when you were a kid, how, that feeling of like how wonderful it was, and like, the 50s and everything was great. And then in your memory, they're like, yeah, it was great. I want to go back there so much. And like that feeling, but like that thing that they want to go back to didn't exist. It wasn't like that. It was just that that feeling about that time period is so powerful, but it's not real. And so like it gets used by people. And when you start really saying that, things were truly better in the 60s, like, well, what does that really mean? It means that things were better for white people back then, but it was horrible. You know what I'm saying? Like for other people. And so it's obviously factually not real, like in every way was not better. We had people died younger, like we had less access to medicine, all these different things. But it's that feeling of nostalgia makes people think that it's so great that we have to go back to this imagined place. It's messed up.
But it's funny that you bring up wrestling, because especially wrestling, like I was a huge fan in the 90s, obviously. And when I revisited it in recent years, I'm just like, oh my God, why did I even like this? Like to say like the Attitude Era is the best. It's like, well, that's the nostalgia talking easily.
Mhm.
And then it has layers because out of every toy I collected, wrestling figures were like the thing that I just like made my parents like just spend money on all the time because wrestlers always have new attire and there's always a new wrestler debuting. I just needed the whole roster. And in the He-Man effect, you talk about how like kids need imaginative play. Like that's so important for them. And I was saying, so my wife's like she's a pre-K teacher, and like she stresses this all the time. How like kids today maybe like might use an iPad or something, and that has like no imaginative play.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I would like make all the storylines with my wrestlers, right? Like I would like do things you would never see on TV, even if I was like mimicking like the Attitude Era. But eventually in life, I actually joined the WWE writing team for a little while.
Oh, what? Sick.
So it's kind of surreal, like thinking about that. Like, yeah, it's not like the best thing for everybody to be like obsessed with toys and like doing that, but it like influenced my life so much that it like put me in a career that was like connected directly to it.
No, that's amazing. I think that like the thing with imaginative play that gets to be a problem now is that people, the kids are so able to see the content over and over again. Like, before that, like you'd see Star Wars in the movie theater when it came out, whatever. Maybe like I know a dude that went to go see it like 10 times, like in like the first few years it was out. But like they're not watching it over and over again like 1,000 times nonstop. And what happens is like there's less kids imagining that they're Luke Skywalker and going on some crazy mission that they're making up, like you're saying, like some new thing, and a lot more of reading the exact script that they have memorized because they've seen it like 1 billion times. So it takes away from that imaginative play and does it more like scripting, where you're copying exactly what yeah, I mean, I used to do that too. Like that was what I would play with my wrestling buddies when I was a kid. They had these little pillow guys.
Yes,
like,
I had a Hulk Hogan one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And I would I had like my own character. Like I was like I was like a metalhead. That was my character.
Nice.
And I would like play entrance music. This is like in my bedroom. I would like play some heavy metal song and come out and be like, yeah, and then like beat up Hulk Hogan for like an hour. Like the matches were epic, man. Like they were going on forever. And, that was like that was how I'd play,
Wait, did you have a gimmick name?
I was called the Metal Man.
The Metal Man.
And I remember like writing stories about it and stuff. Like, and I was like in 10 or something, be like in school, they'd be like, write something. I'd be like, oh, Metal Man was fighting Ric Flair and blah, blah, blah.
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, that's why I added that afterward though, because I'm like, I'm recognizing that all this stuff took place while at the same time being like, you can't make yourself stop feeling nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like you can't make that go away. But I think it's like you have to recognize the bad side of it and like, or just like the power of it and how easily that can be manipulated.
Yeah.
And is manipulated. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what the book is about. And it's like not that much He-Man in it, really. I mean, I think it's originally it was supposed to be called "We Burned He-Man into Their Pea Brains," but they sales thought it was too like violent a title or something like that. Even though that was a quote from a Mattel executive.
That's awesome. That's awesome in an evil way.
It really is. The book is kind of a response to the Netflix documentary, "The Toys That Made Us."
Oh yeah,
which was not bad, but it's just a very lighthearted, isn't it great? Like we love nostalgia thing. Meanwhile, like while they're saying like, we were like psychological terrorists on these children. Yeah, I was one of those kids. Like,
Yeah, dude. Just today at work, I was picking something up, and I can't remember what it was, but whatever it was, I sang it to the Crossfire tune. Yeah.
My wife this week was like, she saw like some TikTok where she's like, oh my God, I saw like part of a commercial from when I was a kid for a toy called Fantastic Flowers. And where you like made flowers out of paper or something. I don't know. This is like what she had. And I actually kind of remember it when she sang the whole commercial. She remembered it. She was like, fantastic flowers. That stuff, it lives in your brain, man. It's all in there. All of it. And it comes back like that.
Yeah.
And it feels so good when the nostalgia comes back.
Yeah, it does. It's a good feeling. But it's also kind of a sad feeling. It's like good and sad. It's like it's almost like when I was like a teenager, like I don't know, or like whatever, a teenager, let's say, and like some girl that I liked, didn't like me or whatever it was. You're all heartbroken and you're like listening to sad music on purpose, like to make yourself more sad. It's kind of like that. Like
That's a great way to describe it. Yeah,
you're like trying to feel. You're trying to feel, and it's not bad to feel. I think there's this great quote. I really got to find out the true who said it and everything, but it was in a John Porcellino King Cat like insert. And the guy talking about listening to the music of his youth, and he's like, every time I re-listen to it, I feel like I'm reconnecting with myself. It makes my life feel like fuller, and I hope to do this again throughout my life, for the rest of my life, be able to come back and re-listen to like stuff from my past, and it makes my life feel richer. And it does. It's hard to argue with that. It's not. I think that like that's kind of the things that we're looking for always, is to feel. We want to feel, but like there is like Disney wants you to have it's like you're hugging your child, and Disney wants to like jump right in the middle and stay there.
It's like trying to talk to a ghost. You're never gonna get that kid back or whatever.
It is actually before I started making the He-Man effect, I made like a zine that's like 10 pages long that it doesn't go into much of the history at all. Obviously it's like 10 pages, but it's just about like the feeling of nostalgia. It's called The Ghost of 1985, because it's like a ghost. It's present, it's there, but you can't touch it. And it is. It's like a ghost. It's like living with a ghost.
The really weird thing about today is that I just moved back into my childhood home and I'm sitting in my room where I grew up in, and it feels really weird. Like, this is not how it looked, by the way. Well, the walls were blue. I painted them blue at some point, but it wasn't all these comics and shit. And it just feels like, even sitting here and just like thinking about this, it feels very melancholy. Like, I'm happy, like I'm doing fine, but I feel very like I am sitting in this sort of like bubble of time where like I'm here, but I'm not here. Like, I feel like the ghost here. It's weird.
Yeah, it is. It's what I'm saying. It's a
movie with Nicole Kidman when she's the ghost.
Oh shit!
The Others.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that. That was good. No, it's true, man. It's originally, right, like the original definition of nostalgia is it's kind of like homesickness. It's like it was like observed that these I think it was like Roman soldiers or like Swedish soldiers or something like that.
Yeah, Swedish. Yep, you said that. Yeah.
They couldn't, they missed home so badly that they like couldn't fight anymore. And that's like the original term nostalgia. And it's like, it's like you're missing, you're feeling like a sadness, but a happiness. It's kind of like the same way when I look at like a picture of my grandmother, and she died a bunch of years ago now. I look at her and I'm like, have a happy memory of being with her, but I'm also like sad because she's, not here anymore. And I think that's a proper place for that emotion for sure. I'm wondering if the proper place for that same emotion is for like the death of a action figure. But it's not really the death of an action figure. It's you're like almost mourning the death of your own self, like your past self, like because you're not
like a chunk of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're not that person anymore.
The same feeling as like one of your favorite childhood bands breaking up, or one of your favorite actors to like your favorite movies or whatever passes away or something.
Yeah. I actually also had a weird opportunity where when I was a kid, I gave all of my action figures to my little cousin because he didn't have any toys. So I had all the Star Wars figures from the 90s. And like I had my Marvel superheroes and stuff. And I gave them all and I never expected to see them again. And then like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, hey, Ryan, do you still have all those toys I gave you? He's like, yeah, they're in a shed somewhere. I'm like, give them to me. Like, what do you mean they're in a shed? Like, and I got them all back and it kind of felt like I got a part of myself back in like the nerdiest way possible.
What a gift though. You know, you
basically gave yourself a time capsule.
Yeah. Well, that should be the expected thing. Like, I'll give you all of my toys, but 20 years from now,
give them.
I want them back.
That's awesome.
And it's not like rebuying the toy. You know, it's literally the toy.
Toy. Oh my god, that would be like a dream come true. I think because so many people rebuy toys and stuff that they had.
Yeah.
Well, so I was in Target a couple weeks ago in the toy section, and I saw these Ninja Turtle figures that I literally had all 4 of them. And you can open up the shell, and then you can put their weapons in the back. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? I used to have all these, and now they're being sold for like $19.99. And I'm like, oh, man.
So that is a new thing, though, right? So like, I remember a couple of years, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, even seeing all these like action figures would be like resculpt of He-Man with like 80 trillion different points of articulation, new design, all this different stuff. And I remember seeing it and being like, I just want the old shit. I like want the old thing. And then when I saw like Walmart and Target and stuff, like just like reproducing like the old shit exactly, I'm like, they're geniuses. They got it.
Yeah.
They nailed it.
I did buy it. I did buy the action figure that I know I had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, and you know, the Play School and shit has been doing this for a really long time because the toys don't change. Like those models,
like the red and
same.
yellow car that everyone has. Yeah.
Yep. So the parents go in, they're like, dude, I had this toy. You're getting it. You know, it's just a dumb toy. It looks like a vacuum cleaner, but it like pops balls.
Yes.
Like they have that. Like that's all the same designs and stuff.
Yeah,
like that's like all nostalgia.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
That didn't even click. Like, see, like to me, that's just like, oh yeah, that's just backyard toys. Everyone has backyard toys. That's just what they look like.
No, I mean, like, yeah. I wonder what the you know, there's gonna be kids that are adults, you know, that are gonna be buying like Paw Patrol, you know, Thomas the Tank Engine. It's gonna happen at some point. It's you know, this is that whole nostalgia thing though, where I'm like, Thomas the Tank Engine is nerdy.
Do you know anything about like if the actual material back in like the 90s to make toys is better than the material they use now?
Oh no, I mean I think it's all like plastic and stuff anyway. I mean, the thing that I think is very funny is like in the 90s there was a cartoon called Captain Planet.
Yeah,
you know, on the planet,
course,
you know,
Of course.
and they had the action figures and stuff, and now I just like think about the Captain Planet action figures that are like part of the giant plastic island that's floating in the Pacific.
That's hilarious.
You know, all of the toys for real. I mean, if we really are talking about like wastefulness of plastic and all this stuff, toys are like the most cheapest bullshit stuff. Like, why do I get stuff for my kids and I'm like, this was $20. It's just like the shittiest mold plastic. Like you put like a sticker on it and it looks like kind of like the thing on the box. Like it's such a scam. Like it probably cost them like a nickel to like make this and ship it and $1 billion to market it. And it's like you feel like cheat, like Lego toys, that Lego Play-Doh toys to me feel the most shitty. And like the shittiest. When I get that for my kids, I'm like, this is the stupid thing, the Lego barbershop. It's like 2 pieces of plastic.
I used to love the smell of toys when you would open up a fresh one out of the box.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's part of it. I think like is wanting to for me is like wanting to smell the toy.
Yeah.
There was a He-Man toy that called Stinkor that was supposed to like smell bad. And the way they made it smell is that they put patchouli oil in the plastic that they molded it out of.
That's so funny.
So that's why those things will still like maintain a little bit of the scent. It's because it's like part of the toy itself.
Patchouli oil. That's so funny that they were like, we're gonna make Stinkor smell like a hippie.
Do you remember? I think it was called Floam.
Okay. It was like had like slime with balls in it.
Yeah,
Yes.
slime with little balls in it.
Yeah.
That shit was awesome.
Yeah.
But it lasted like 2 hours and then it dried out instantaneously.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people too, when they revisit toys of their past, they often get stuff that they didn't have when they were kids, but they wanted really bad.
Yeah.
I was talking to a dude the other day, a radio interview, and the guy told me that like he wanted the Voltron lions like so bad, and it was like so intense that like and his parents wouldn't get it for him. That like years later, he talked to his therapist about like how as it was evidence that his parents didn't love him. They never got him the Voltron toy. That was amazing. I mean, and that's, I could totally see that. That's like a totally intense, unintended consequence of nonstop advertising to children. Is that they think their parents don't love them if they don't buy them the toy. I mean, that's pretty intense.
Sure.
I believe that.
I remember once. I mean, I was like 10 years old. But you remember that Star Wars trading card game that was essentially like Star Wars Magic the Gathering? Like it played like Magic the Gathering or something.
I do remember that. Yeah. I think I still have those.
So I got a bunch of those. I got really into those when I was a kid, and they came out with like a big, huge, like deck, and it was the only way to get this one particular
That's exactly
card
what I have. Yeah.
and stuff. And I remember as a 10-year-old being like, if I don't get this, literally saying to my mom, I'm like, if I don't get this, I'm not going to be okay. And she just did. She was like, well, then we're definitely not getting it. If you feel that strongly.
It feels like it's a new phenomenon, but really like pretty much everyone is obsessed with something from their childhood. My dad is like 71 or something like that. And, dude still loves cowboys, man. Like deep down, he really wants to like be a cowboy, and like ride a horse, whatever. Like that is he really, that's his thing, man. And then like, there's a certain generation like before mine that like their toy that they all wanted was the Evel Knievel stunt cycle. And like, it's funny because like after doing this book, I like talk to people and be like, oh yeah, how old are you? And they'll be like, I'm 53. I'm like, did you have the Evel Knievel stunt cycle? He's like, they'll be like, dude, I wish I had that. Like my neighbor had it. It was awesome. And it's like everybody has this like every generation has these like fads. The other thing I talk about in the book too is how like we think of the things we think of as like good representations of things on television for kids, like Sesame Street, have a lot of the same marketing to children stuff going on as well. For one thing, Sesame Street was exempt from the rules in the 70s that didn't allow toy companies or television shows to make toys based on their shows. Sesame Street was allowed to do it. I don't know if because it was PBS or if it was just considered a benefit for children or whatever, but they were allowed to do it and they did do it. They opened up Sesame Place in the 80s, which is like, I went there like 2 or 3 years ago and it sucks. It is like the biggest cash grab, like crappiest theme park, like such like a.
Heard of Sesame Place.
It's really bad.
I've heard of it. It's a piece of shit.
I went when I was a kid. I don't have any memories attached to it though.
It's really bad. And then the other thing is that, not that, I mean, next is probably like 20 years ago now. But at some point, Tickle Me Elmo was like the biggest selling toy.
Yes, I remember that
in the country, and so Sesame Street, kind of right up there with GI Joe in terms of marketing towards children.
I mean, yeah, Sesame Street toys are so ubiquitous too. Like, and whatever you see anything else like Sesame Street toothbrushes and shit like that, like
everything. So they're kind of doing the same exact thing and getting none of the same flack that Disney gets.
Interesting.
Like, I mean, it's just more crazy to think about how susceptible to manipulate, because like all of these megacorps, that's just all what they're doing, and it's crazy.
Dude, I remember seeing Indian in the Cupboard.
Yeah.
And becoming like almost like kind of like how you were saying, Cody, like you're not going to be okay. I was like, the fact that this isn't a real thing almost breaks my fucking heart.
I was like a teenager when I saw that. I was like blown up by it. Like, I like literally was like putting toys inside my cabinet and being like
praying they would come to life. Yeah. I loved toys. I still do. I collect a lot of toys, to be honest.
Oh, I have a bunch of stuff I collect too. I mean, I think there's stuff that's so cool, like, that I just wish that I had more place to display them and like ways to display it. And this one dude said that he's compared like the getting of your toys from your life and setting them up all around your room, and is kind of the same thing as what pharaohs would do, like with their they like put all their things from their life and their where they're dead, like to take with them in the afterlife. You're building your own tomb like around yourself with this stuff. He's not too far off. I mean, like it is. It's kind of like in a way, this stuff is like the photographs that people put on their walls and stuff. You want to walk in and feel like the same feelings that, kind of when you look at photographs of your family and memories. And, whenever I look at old photographs, I'm often looking at the stuff in them. Like when I look at pictures from the 70s, I'm like, man, look at the beer bottles look so weird back then. Like, look at their clothes. And, and having your stuff around, it's not that different from surrounding yourself with your memories of your life.
I want people to look at my collection, how like someone shows off a nice cellar of wine. They're like, oh, exactly. You have the limited edition Funko Pop of Reptar. I see. A true man of taste.
That's funny. I sometimes like want to be a super completist about the stuff, but I don't know. I always like start collecting and getting a bunch of the stuff and then slow down before I ever actually buy all the toys. Like I have Battle Beasts, but not all of them. Like I don't want to get them all because like, then what do I like look for? I have to find some other thing.
I think our generation, especially, I mean, I don't know how old you are. I don't want to ask. I feel like that's rude, but like Pokemon was such a gotta catch them all, like, and that song, and then in your head, it's still in my head every so often. I'll just randomly think, gotta catch them all.
And you had to buy 2 games, Red and Blue.
Right. trade doubles if you're really
They
into
do
collecting
how to
all the
get you.
cards. Yeah.
When Pokemon came out, I bought anything Pokemon, cards, toys. They had really good toys.
But they didn't at first. I don't know if you remember that. I don't think they were ready for how popular it was. Like I remember the only thing you could get were like these clear plastic balls from Toys R Us, and they had like the tiniest Pokemon inside of it.
Yeah,
That's like all they had.
That was so big at that. I was like maybe 20 when that, or like 19 when that came out, or maybe even 18. And I remember like, we were all like working these summer jobs. Like I had these two friends that were like doing drywall and shit. And they got up really early and they would both watch Pokemon at like 6 o'clock in the morning before their like
drywall
construction job.
Dude, Pokemon was good.
It was good. I mean, it's still around. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Like something else entirely.
For me as a kid, especially like in the 90s, it was probably dominated heavily by a combination of Batman toys, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Power Rangers.
What were your big toys? So He-Man, what else?
So Transformers and G.I. Joe.
Nice.
And Thundercats.
Nice.
I also was, I had a lot of the lesser, those were just like 3 of like 100. So there was like so many toy companies like and TV shows doing this exact same thing. There's this great property called the Inhumanoids that I was really loved. Oh yeah, I was scared of it when I was a kid. Like the first episode was frightening to me as a child watching it. But the toys were cool. It was like they had like these like the guys that were like figures, but the guys they fought were like these huge, gnarly looking monsters with like teeth that were so scary. That was awesome. But I had like one guy of that when I was a kid, and Thundercats. I had like a handful of them. I remember I had Sectars. This was like Sectars was this thing where like they were bug people, like it was like human bug hybrid people that fought each other, and they had these like giant bug vehicles, but like it was really cool. Like it was like a glove you put on, and then like your hand was like the bug's legs, and like up here the figure sat like on the giant bug.
That's cool.
That was like kind of cool. They all had like giant play sets. Like I remember like the Hive was like as tall as I was. The Hive, it was called, like their base.
It's like Mighty Max. You remember Mighty Max?
Oh,
it was
yeah,
Mighty. So was Mighty Max?
Mighty Max.
Yeah, I remember.
Mighty Max.
But Mighty Max was like the boys' answer to Polly Pocket.
Polly Pocket, right?
Yeah.
Which was honestly like those are cool toys.
Yeah,
I love those.
Anything that's like little like that is kind of awesome. And there were so many. There's just like so many cool toys from back then because there was so many people making them, and so many fell apart after like 6 months. They like went full throttle, make like 24 episodes of a show, produce like 5 different figures, packaging and everything, and then like burn out in like 3 or 4 months, like something like that, or like make all these toys and the TV show like never airs. All that type of stuff.
See, I used to try and buy a lot of like video game toys because some of them were like really hard to get and so cool. Specifically, like the Crash Bandicoot toys were like really top notch quality, and they were like heavy and nice dense vinyl and plastic.
They didn't have that when I was a kid. Like Nintendo wasn't making toys or anything at all yet. There was like no Nintendo co-branding like at all. There was Nintendo cereal. I remember, but like Nintendo Power was like the only thing we got, which was great. It's another thing that I would go back and buy. Nintendo Powers magazines.
Power's a solid magazine.
Yeah.
Damn, I might still have some of those.
I know I have somewhere in my house.
Somewhere, yeah.
I mean, I poured over magazines when I was a kid, like before the internet. Like I had subscriptions to like Nintendo Power and WWE magazine.
Yes. Oh, that's
and like when we would go to like the supermarket with my mom, I'd be like, all right, you go buy the food. I'm gonna hang out by these magazines. I would like
read the magazines.
Read every magazine.
Yeah.
I'd be like, some of them would be like in a plastic bag, and
Yes.
I'd be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna rip this open and read it, and like, and just put it back, and no one will know. And if I would read like all the video game things and like write down or like try to remember the cheat codes and stuff like that. And and but the wrestling magazines too, like they'd have like these big, like not WWE magazine, like I'm talking about like The Wrestler, and it had like these like cheap looking photos of all these old wrestlers and like especially back then, like there was regional wrestling and like I didn't know anything about it. Like all we had was WWE and WCW, but there was like all this other shit, and it'd be like in the magazine. I'd be like, what the hell is UWF? Where's that? How do they watch that?
UWF.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. Everybody check out Brian Brown's book. I'm so sorry, I'm stoned.
It's called
He-Man
Effect. He-Man Effect.
The He-Man Effect: How American Toy Makers Sold You Your Childhood. That came out today, actually. And it's out. And
did you
honestly,
plan it to come out around the same time as like the Barbie movie and stuff?
So this is just a I want to say that's a coincidence, but actually, like, if you guys read the book, like it pretty much predicts that like this shit is going to happen forever. So so I was worried because it got delayed. The release got delayed a while. Like it was supposed to come out before my Putin book, and my Putin book came out first. And I had finished this before I even started making the Putin book. So this has been on the shelf for a while, waiting to come out. And I was like, what's going to happen? What if all this stuff changes? But it's like just been falling into place. Like, because like, the Barbie movie's out, but like Mattel also released had an article in the New York Times where they're going to release like a whole slew of Mattel movies, and they're going to have
35 or something.
And they want to have them have like prestige directors now. Like, I mean, it's not dumb. I mean, their audience is getting older, and why not? If you're going to appeal to nostalgia, why not give them the directors that the adults actually like? It's kind of crazy. But I see stuff all the time now, and I'm like, oh, there's the He-Man Effect right there. Like I got advertised like the co-branding with like these really expensive sunglasses that like slightly kind of looked like a stormtrooper. And it was like Star Wars times like whatever, some brand I never heard of that's like really expensive sunglasses. And it's like, the Star Wars fans have shitloads of money now. And they're just like, they're Star Wars branded cars and things like that. Like, Anyhow, thanks so much for having me on.
This was awesome and like honestly super interesting.
There's the book right here.
Effect.
So check it out, and also I might as well also plug my weed comic strip as long as we're here.
Please.
Legalization Nation comes out every Tuesday on my social media outlets, which used to just be Instagram and Twitter, and is now Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter. This morning I was like posting it. I'm like 8 billion different sites. So, and also it's also on my Patreon, and it runs also on comicskingdom.com, and it is in the newspaper in Arizona.
Oh shit.
I want to say Tempe Weekly, Phoenix.
We got to ask Austin. We have a friend out in Arizona.
I do have people sometimes see it in the paper there and send it to me. Nice. But I've only seen it like once. The Tucson Weekly. I'm sorry.
Tucson Weekly. There we go.
Okay.
All right, Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really a blast. You're welcome back anytime to talk weed, talk anything.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on, guys. Good hanging out.
It was awesome.
Have a great one.
Later.
Hi, you're listening to Comics and Chronic, and I'm Jake FH.
I'm Cody Cannon.
And I'm Anthony Iannaccio.
And you can tune in every Thursday to hear new episodes of Comics and Chronic.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Comics and Chronic. That's comics, the letter N, Chronic.
We'll see you guys next week.
Woo!
Peace.